Hello and welcome to The Big Show. It's Alex Belfield talking to the big stars, and one of my favourite loose women is Denise Welch. How are you?
I'm fine, but you say that to all the girls.
Well, I do really, to be honest with you. But you're
I know you do.
I'll tell you why you're one of my favourite. I love having Colleen on, and Jane's one of my favourite people ever.
Yeah,
but
and mine.
You are just honest and real and raw, and that's your best friend and your worst enemy, isn't it?
I think it is. You know, for those people who sort of admire my honesty, you're obviously going to get people who knock you and think that it's a little bit too much. But, you know, you can't please all the people all the time, can you, Alex?
Were you born mouthy?
Yes, I was, I think. It's not like I set out to do this kind of, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give it all. It's just that when I'm on Loose Women, I just sort of forget that I'm on the television. And then I go, and I don't think I've said anything sort of like revealing or controversial particularly till I go to my dressing room and my mobile's going beep, 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 with all the texts from irate family members and friends, you know. So I do sort of have to hold back a bit, but obviously, you know, I knew that when I was doing the book, that if I was going to do it at all, that I would probably be a bit more candid than maybe some people would be.
I spoke to Colleen last year when she brought out her book, and then I spoke to her about 6 weeks later, because in between, people read the book, and she was almost surprised that people picked out the worst bits, and then her family kicked off. Did you learn from that and show your family it before it was published?
Oh, yes, I did. I mean, obviously, you know, because it's not like I went, by the way, if you pop into the local bookshop, you'll see a revealing autobiography that I just wrote. So yes, I did, and they obviously did all read it, and they were all. And when I say all, I don't just mean Tim. I meant my mum and my dad and my sister, and you know, we're a very close family, so I knew what the ripple effect would be if they didn't if they didn't like it. So they were at liberty to change what bits they wanted to. The thing is about, because we went for serialisation, and although you kind of know that they're going to put what's in the book, you sort of are a little bit unprepared for the impact of that, I have to say. It's just a bit sort of startling to see it in the tabloid press. And obviously, because that is the nature of the tabloids, and I understand what their job is, they are going to pick out the more controversial and salacious aspects of the book. Whereas when you do read it, it hopefully gives a sort of a more rounded view, and you know there is I hate that word journey, because it's just become like a reality TV word, which I hate. But there is a journey from beginning to end, which includes these dark episodes, but also hopefully people see that it includes some nice episodes and some funny ones too.
Let's talk about you as a child. You were born in Whitley Bay. Were you different? Were you odd? Was show business beckoning to you?
No, you know, I wasn't different, and I wasn't particularly ambitious, and I didn't show any show business leanings, as it were. I mean, I was sort of maybe a little bit ahead of my time. I mean, my mum always says that when I was about 9, which I guess around the age that my youngest son is now, and you know, it was sort of early evening or whatever, and her friends would come round for a girls' night, I genuinely could not understand why they would possibly want me to go to bed. Do you know what I mean? It was like, what do you mean you don't want me to contribute to this evening? So I think there's always been a little bit of centre of attentionness going on. But I didn't really think about going into the acting industry until I was much, much older. I mean, in the book I talk about one of my dad's best friends being Ian Lefrene, who was the very successful writer of The Likely Lads, and ironically Arvida's Aim Pet, of course, which starred my husband. So although there were people like Rodney Bewes who came to stay for a while when they were doing The Likely Lads, we didn't really come from a show business family. And as I say, it wasn't until I was in my teens, that, encouraged by my dad, that I sort of went into the business. So, and I was quite conformist as a child. I wasn't rebellious. I didn't even rebel as a teenager. So I was really quite quite boring.
What's it like having a dad who from time to time dresses up in a frock?
Well, you see, I say quite boring and I say quite normal, and then we bring up Raquel. And I just kind of thought that was normal. So maybe I did have more of a scarred childhood than I'm allowing myself to think. Yeah, my dad has dressed up as a woman, and because of me talking about it, Raquel's had a little bit of a resurrection in the press recently as well. One of our more famous glossy magazines did a 6-page spread on us recently, and it was my father's greatest hour. You know, he was just he was just so thrilled to be on the cover as Raquel. And basically it started where he was a very young, pretty man, as opposed to a big, handsome, strapping hunk. And they had me rather young. And when they were in their early 20s, they went to a fancy dress. Mum is a sort of dressed as a man and Dad as a woman. And he started to do a few gags, as is his wont. And people started to say, oh, Vin, would you come to our party and do that? So it sort of developed from there and became more of a little charity thing he used to do. But, you know, there is a story which is really true that one day an insurance man came to the door and I said, oh, my dad's upstairs getting ready to do a charity thing, failing to say, as Shirley Bassey. Right. So when Shirley Bassey came down and sat on the settee, legs akimbo, to sign the forms, the guy literally backed out of the house. But as I say, I've always sort of accepted it. And, you know, and my dad was kind of forced by my grandpa because I came along a tad earlier than expected. And my dad was forced to go into the family firm when really he was overqualified for that. So he sort of threw himself into his social life, which included dressing up as a woman. And now my husband is going off to play a transvestite in Benidorm. So I'm trapped in cross-dressing hell.
So when did show business come into your life? Obviously you had inklings that something might be a bit different. But you see, I put you in the same category of people like Sue Johnson. You're very real. You
must bump into a lot of tarts with hearts then, Alex.
They're my favourite.
My speciality.
I don't get out much.
Sue Johnson is a pal of mine and just a fantastic actress. So that's very nice. I mean, it's actually sometimes quite nice just to remind myself that I'm an actress as well at the moment, because everything else, all the controversy surrounding this is sort of easy to forget, you know.
We'll move on to Loose With Me, because the thing I love about that show, and I've been a fan of it for years, as you know, is that the people who are in it generally are really talented. I mean, Jane's got a fab voice. You're a tremendous actress. I mean, Leslie Garrett can knock 'em dead. Is it interesting to you now that people who watch that don't probably know, other than the stuff you're doing on BBC One Primetime, that you're a great actress? You just think you're some gobby woman that tells fabulous stories.
Well, you know, I don't mind if they think that, as long as they think the stories are fabulous, then I don't mind. It is interesting because, you know, it's like wherever you go, people are going, loose women, loose women, loose women. And even though people do know me from those other things, that's what they want to talk about, you know. And it's like, is there any point still being an actress, or shall I just, you know, stay on Loose Women? It has really touched the nation. And I mean, it has been going a long time, but it's only really in the last 2 or 3 years that it's become as huge, you know, as it is now. So, you know, I'm just very flattered to be associated with a great programme. And I'm also very flattered that the industry has allowed me to be an actress and a presenter at the same time, because you know what we're like over here. We do like to pigeonhole people. And so it's nice to be in Loose Women in the day and in Waterloo Road at night, you know, on the telly at the same time, and be sort of, you know, taken seriously for both. But, you know, Loose Women has given me a profile, albeit in a different way. And it's also opened up a new sort of potential presenting career for me as well. And I think that with the climate in the industry as it is now, you have to diversify. And, you know, I'm in my early 50s now, and I've worked constantly throughout my 40s and continue, touch wood, to have plenty work now. So for that, I'm really, really grateful.
And because of programmes like that, you get to write the book and tell your story, which leads us then to alcohol, because you've talked about it a lot on the programme. I've seen you being very open about it.
Can I have another vodka, please? Sorry.
I know you're only joking, but it's not really a joke in a sense that it kind of pulls you both ways, drink, doesn't it? It goes from making you a really amazing person to destroying your life.
Yeah.
Are you now at the point where you can find that line and stop it before it goes too far?
I hope so, otherwise I'd have to stop again, Alex, really, to be honest. I've chosen, my quote is, I stepped off the wagon rather than fell off it when I decided to start drinking again. Because if I'm honest, if my drinking is in control, which it is, albeit you may see me, apparently I'm always embarrassingly pole dancing, according to the tabloids. And one famous photo of me pole dancing, clutching a pole, was actually me getting off a double-decker bus with Jane McDonald that took us to a party. And another one was me just literally walking past a lamppost. There she goes again, embarrassingly pole dancing. So the tabloid press, the paparazzi, have made it quite obvious that they want me to be drunk spice or party spice. Do you know what I mean? So if you can't beat them, join them. But yes, it is a serious issue, and I did stop drinking for two years, and but if I can keep it under control, which I do, and I do like a night out, and I will still go out and get hammered now and again with Carol McGiffin, and for that I make no apology or secret, but it happens very rarely nowadays. But I prefer my life with alcohol in it, under control. I prefer parties where you can have a drink. I prefer a glass of red wine with a lovely meal. I prefer most of my friends have a drink. So if I can keep it to where it is now, then I prefer my life with it in it. But, as you rightly said, it did, and other things took me to a very dark place. But I was also much more poorly in those days. I'm much more well now. Having said that, I don't want to, in this book, I do say that my battle with my illness was responsible for many of my behavioural issues, but certainly not all of them. And I don't want to make excuses and say, oh, that's because I was poorly, because it wasn't always because I was poorly. It's because I made some bad decisions.
Can you see in your mind's eye now then a big flashing red light when you're having one too many?
Well, no, not really. No, not really.
How do you know that you're not slipping back into that behaviour?
Do you know something? Because I'm not self-medicating with it. I'm not doing it to blank. I'm not doing it to blank things out. I don't go out to get drunk because life is easier that way. If I get drunk as a result of being out with my friends, then I'm just a giddy, silly, daft drunk. Do you know what I mean? But yes, I do have more of a cut-off point, and that's because I can't bear the hangovers anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm too old to deal with them in the way that I used to sort of brush them off. And also, Alex, to be honest, because I don't get many days off at the minute these days, and I can't bear that awful thing of working with a hangover. And although the press, it may look sometimes like I'm always out, although not so much recently, I'm not. I go to work, which is often in London, because that's where we do Loose Women, and then I go home to my children.
And then there's Denise Welch and Men. Let's cover this and put it straight. There was something that I don't particularly want to go into that was written about following the publication of the book. When you find yourself on the front of a paper, is there any worse fear of terror when it's not for the reasons that you're looking for?
Yes, it's absolutely horrible, and I know what you're referring to, but yes, it's horrible, you know, but I did put myself out there with the autobiography, and there were bound to be some people who saw that as an opportunity.
I think I got to know you the best on Coronation Street, which was a great time for you because, again, you brought so much warmth and fun to the role. You were perfect for that show because you're fundamentally funny, aren't you?
I like to think I can make people laugh sometimes. I do. I mean, I do love comedy. It is my genre. It is my sort of area that I love to do. And I've been very lucky that I've had roles like in Coronation Street and subsequently in other things, and in Waterloo Road, where I've had dramas that have given me the opportunity to do both, because I don't want my characters to be just one-dimensional. Oh, here she comes with the jokey music. You know, here's her. So it's been nice that, I mean, because obviously in Coronation Street I did get to be funny, but subsequently all of my family were murdered on a weekly basis. They were all.
Nothing makes me laugh more.
Nothing makes me laugh more than a good old murder. And also at the end of Corrie, when of course I did own a red BMW, but I still had to go up the cobbles in a black taxi because that's what you have to do to stay with cousin Helen, I believe, who I'd not met or talked of in 4 years, but I needed to be with her to have my child.
And you end up in Swindon or somewhere.
So, exactly. But you know, they were great times and they were dark times, but I'm very proud of my time in Corrie, and I made some of my best friends to this day, and one of my really good friends is now the producer, so I still have lots of connections to the show.
Ever going to go back?
Well, you know, people say that, but they don't ask if you'd ever go back to any other series that you were in. I mean...
Yeah, it's because we don't care about the rest. That's
I know, I suppose that's true. I've never asked to go back, and I've never been asked to go back, and I've been very fortunate that I've worked since I've left, and it was like one of those things I've always felt, you know, you feel in your bones and you feel in your gut when the time is right to go. And the time was right for me to leave, and I did. And as I say, I've been fortunate to work, but they were very happy times and I made some brilliant friends. I
just finally want to talk about the things you're most proud of. What are your highlights?
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's an interesting question, because obviously people expect me to say the high-profile ones, maybe like Coronation Street or going back some, but, you know, for those who remember Soldier, which was a fantastic time. It was like being sent abroad with all your best friends to foreign countries. It was amazing with you know, great characters and great storylines. But, you know, I had as much fun in my days of doing plays like Drop Your Knickers and Cry Murder in Skegness. There was no such a play. That's just a mixture of all the fantastic theatre roles
I was just Googling that as you were talking about it.
Mixed into one. But, in those days, in my 20s, when you don't have any dependents, and also I get a little bit on my soapbox, because in those days when you had to get an equity card and then you had to work your 40 weeks to get a full equity card, you kind of felt like you were doing an apprenticeship, and that you had earned your right to be there. And these days, because people think that you just have to sit in a house for a few weeks and that you've got the right to sort of, have a lead in a drama series, it just irks with me a little bit when people say, well, I could do what you're doing. And the reason that it looks easy is because you're good at doing it. And it's sort of like, I get a bit protective of my craft as an actress. Do you know what I mean? So as I say, I did a show about 150 years ago called A Bed Full of Foreigners, and still my aunties think that that's my career highlight. Mind, we laughed when you did A Bed Full of Foreigners in 1922. So I think that for different reasons I've just enjoyed my career, and I feel very fortunate to have had this, I say much success, but in my little world it's been successful.
Well, and you're still working, you're still here.
Do you know something? I'm still working, and I know that your 40s and particularly your 50s can be the death knell for many actresses, and so I'm just very fortunate. And as I say, Loose Women came along and opened up a different sort of opportunity to me, so I'm just very fortunate in that respect.
I don't know about you, but I do see the red flag when these young stars from Coronation Street or EastEnders leave for better things with very little else going on, and suddenly you don't hear about them again.
Well, it's quite cold out there, but I'm a great champion of the. Well, I don't really think that we should say soap actress or just general actress. I mean, at the awards, I think it should just be best actress, because if you can pull off a great performance with the confines of a soap where there is no rehearsal, there are millions of scenes a day to do. Doing a drama where you're getting 2 minutes a day on film is a bloomin' doddle.
Well, I think Norris from Coronation Street's up there with Sir Ian McKellen.
Well, I think he absolutely is.
I could watch him all day.
So many of them are. People like Barbara Knox, people like Helen Worth. Helen Worth is a fantastic actress. She's consummately good, even if she's not in storyline. You watch Helen Worth or David Nielsen, who plays Roy Cropper, you watch them in the back of shot, and they're marvellous actors. It doesn't matter that they're in a soap opera. The fact is, they're just marvellous actors.
Poor old Helen as well. She never gets a nice storyline. She never gets anything.
I know she doesn't. Do you know? But she's a great laugh, Helen Worth. She's fantastic. Yeah, she is. And David Nielsen's one of the funniest men I know.
I want to finish with Tim Healy and talk to you about this man who came into your life. I last saw him in the West End in Billy Elliot, and my God, he is just the most charismatic of actors and entertainers, and in the same way you are.
He is a fantastic character actor.
When you hear him sing, and I know he's done that on Loose Women from time to time, I know you love it, don't you?
He's a canny chanter. He's a great singer. A lot of people don't know he's a good singer, but he's fantastic. I mean, he always says that when he was a stand-up comedian that he had to sort of be able to sing when he was about to be paid off, Because in some of the clubs, one of the lines in one of the northern clubs was, "Comedy's all right if you're late laughing." That's what one of them said to him up north. But no, he's got a great voice, a very sort of Joe Cockery sort of voice. No, I'm very proud of him as an actor, and I still think he's got a lot to show people. I've seen him in theatre roles that obviously only a few people have, and he is very, very charismatic, and I know people like yourself do rate him, but I still think he is underrated by a lot. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thrilled that he's going to be playing this very attractive transvestite called Leslie.
Final two questions. The questions you were hoping I'd ask, and the question that you hoped I wouldn't ask. What are they then?
The question that I hoped you wouldn't ask, which wasn't it great when we're doing it again? I didn't want you to obviously say that on the radio. No. Because it wasn't very memorable, and it would have obviously been inappropriate.
And get in the papers.
Yeah.
And we don't need that, do we? Either of us.
I mean, to be honest, because you've sort of blown my trumpet, as the actress said, I think that you've asked me really, really good questions, Alex. So, as such a brilliant interviewer, I think you've covered all aspects so superbly well. There's nothing I can think of.
You're fabulous. I'm delicious.
You are.
This couldn't have gone better, could it? I love you very much, and you're a rare treat, and I enjoy talking to you every single time because you're always interesting, fun, and you bring something to the party, and that's why you're still working.
Something? Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Now then, let's do some business, because this is why you're talking to me. You're not doing it for the love of it, let's face it. The name of the new book is...
Pulling Myself Together. The title comes from the fact that because of my battle with my illness, people who don't understand it, and I get people who don't understand it, I know that it's hard to understand a mental illness unless you've been through it or seen someone close to you go through it. What the two stock phrases are: snap out of it and pull yourself together. And so that's why I called it that. And luckily, the publishers, Pan Macmillan, said that I could keep that title. And pulling myself together is it's because I'm still a work in progress, I suppose.
Beautifully written, if not a bit uncomfortable at times, is the way I would describe it. Incredibly real, and that's what we expect from you. Denise Welch, thank you for coming on the programme.
Thank you very much.